You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408, 312-255-8408. I think for the first half hour, there'll be no live stream. We're having some technical difficulties, but again, we will be on radio, WNDZ, 750 AM. Father Greg Sakowitz, the rector of Holy Name Cathedral, and co-host Mark Teresi, deals with stewardship and legacy and about everything else in the cathedral. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Very fine. Beautiful day today. Beautiful weekend.
It was a beautiful weekend, except the Bears yesterday.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Oh, my gosh.
Let's bring up the Cubs.
Yeah, the Cubs swept to Colorado, but now they have 6 games left, 3 in Atlanta, 3 in Milwaukee. Season ends Sunday. So their destiny is in their own hands to make the playoffs, because right now they sit in the 6th seed, the last spot.
Right.
But 2 teams, I think Miami and Cincinnati, right on their tail. So if they go like 1-5, 2-4, odds are they slip out of the 6th spot. They could actually end up in the 5th spot by catching Arizona. So it all comes down to the last 6 games of the season.
So we have a group from Chicago going up next Sunday. 2:10 game. That could be an important game.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a case where if they win, they're in. If they lose, they go home.
Yeah.
So it's all very pivotal. And the White Sox, their season ended back in April.
Yeah.
It was pathetic. But going back to the Bears game real quickly, and that is just
what happened? I mean,
Kansas City is.
We were out with friends of ours, and there were 2 big screens, and it just kept getting worse and worse.
At halftime was 34-0.
Yeah.
If they kept the pedal to the metal, they could have beat the Bears 75-0.
Yeah.
But they let up in the second half. So we have a great program lined up here again. It's 312-255-8408. The Ulma family gave their lives rescuing fleeing Jews in Nazi-occupied Poland. Josef and Victoria Ulma and their seven children, including 1 unborn in Victoria's womb, were beatified on Sunday, September 10th, in their home village of Markova. The story of the Ulma family is the final chapter in the book entitled by the author Stephen Binns, and its book is entitled
Pilgrimage in
Catholic Poland. So, Stephen, welcome to the program this morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. So nice to be with you.
I know we were having a little trouble with the technical side for the video, for the live stream, but at least we have you on radio. And just the title of the book, Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland. Well, first of all, maybe before we get into the book, Stephen, a little bit of your background. You were born in Arkansas, and take it from there.
Yeah, I was born in Little Rock, raised a Catholic, and went to University of Dallas for my undergraduate education with a semester in Rome, which gave me the travel bug. And I've been traveling ever since. I love to give pilgrimages to sacred sites. As a biblical scholar, I have a series called Threshold Bible Study. And out of that, I lead pilgrimages to the Holy Land, travels with Paul and other places. But in recent years, I've been going to lots of other sacred sites. And Poland is one that I've recently discovered. I went to Poland about 10 years ago, and I went again in the Year of Mercy in 2016, and I've been about three other times. Right before writing this book, I just went over there and rented a car and traveled all around the country myself. but
Hmm.
it's a fascinating place, and particularly important for Catholics because it has so many shrines and saints of the faith, and the 20th century of Poland is just fascinating and very inspiring.
There's no question that Poland is heavily, heavily Catholic. In fact, I'm 100% Polish. My father's side was from Białystok. My mother's side was from a little town called Kabalanka near the Ukraine border. Mark?
Yeah, and I'm half Polish, and there was a priest, a great uncle priest, who died in World War II.
From your family?
Yeah, from our family. Now, Stephen, I had a question. Everybody has it on their bucket list to write a book. You wrote a book. What prompted you to, particularly this book, Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland? Were there some inspirations you had on the way?
Yeah, I have written a number of books, mostly Bible studies, Threshold Bible Study. I've written 40 Bible studies in that series.
That is
But
amazing.
recently I've been writing pilgrimage books, Holy Land, the California missions, and others. And Poland is my most recent book. And the first time I went to Poland was with a survivor of the Holocaust, a Jewish woman, 80 years old, and she was very bitter about the whole experience throughout most of her life. And then about 20 years ago, she discovered the power of forgiveness. And by forgiving the Nazis, forgiving her persecutors, she said she freed herself. Her life was totally changed. And so experiencing Poland, particularly the former Jewish culture there, and the whole period of the Holocaust was just a very fascinating experience.
You know, there's a great line.
Then I went
Go ahead.
as a Catholic pilgrim in the Year of Mercy, and just discovered all of the Catholic sites there. You know, the 20th century in Poland, particularly the time of the World Wars, Second World War, Poland suffered more than any other country in Europe, and the number of people that Poland lost in the Holocaust was just devastating. But out of that terrible suffering arose a great sanctity. And saints of the church, saints like Saint Faustina Kowalska, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, of course, Saint John Paul II, Cardinal Wyszynski, who was also recently beatified, Saint Edith Stein. So many saints of the church, 20th century saints, came from Poland, and many of them are martyrs.
It's interesting. There's a great line that
But,
says, forgiving
Out of
doesn't.
suffering comes great sanctity.
That is very true. And the great line is, forgiving doesn't change the past. It changes the future. I always tell people, forgiving is a way to stop hurting. And then if you look at the last chapter of this book, Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland, tell us about the Ulma family. It's a fascinating short piece that I read. So say more about the Ulma family, Stephen.
Yeah, I didn't know about the Ulma family until right before I started writing this book, and so I decided to make the journey to Markowa, which is in southeast Poland, just about a 2-hour drive from Krakow. So I went down there, and what I found was just fascinating. The Ulma family was a family of 2 parents and 6 children and another child on the way. And it was very, very difficult to house Jews or to protect Jews during the war, because the Nazis had this policy of a collective retribution. So if anyone found out that anyone was protecting Jews, they would immediately be killed along with their whole family, sometimes their whole community. So they made it so that there would be advantages to turning people in. And we don't know exactly how the Nazis found out, but they discovered the Ulma family at the time. They were housing 8 Jewish people within their home and 8 others on their property. They were a farming family, and they were discovered, of course, and the Nazis came in and shot the 2 parents. The 6 children were, of course, screaming in horror, and they shot them as well as the Jews that they were hiding. And then they ordered the mayor of the town to go out and get a bottle of vodka, and they decided to have a drinking spree after that terrible murder.
Unbelievable.
So the Ulma family, the Jews who were saved by the Ulmas or by that community, decided to open a museum to the Ulma family, which is in Markova. And that museum, as you can see, it contains a replica of the Ulma home and lots of photographs and exhibits of the Ulma family and the other families of Markova and the Subcarpathian region where they lived. So I went to the museum, photographed it for the book, told their story in the book, and in each of these sections of the book where I tell about one of the pilgrimage sites, at the end of the section I write a meditation, a prayer experience. So reflection questions. For example, the reflection question on this section is, would I have been a persecutor, a bystander, a resistor, or a rescuer in wartime Markova?
No.
And of course, none of us can really answer that question. We don't know what we would be like or how we would respond in that situation.
It's too
But
horrific.
it's an important question to reflect on.
Yeah, it's too horrific to even imagine. Now, as you look at the beatification, were any of their family involved in this? Well, I just imagine, I just can't imagine how their extended family would just be devastated by this. Did you have any contact with any of their family?
No, I didn't know the family. Of course, the immediate family was all killed, including the child in the womb.
Right.
And, as part of the beatification, that child has been declared a martyr as well through baptism of blood, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure there must have been remaining relatives of the Markova family. This museum is not only a shrine for Christians, but it's a shrine for Jews as well. There are many Jews who come here to honor the Markova family, because the Markova family is one of the righteous among the nations, declared by the Yad Vashem, the people of Jerusalem, the people of Israel, as one of the saviors who rescued Jewish people during the war.
Wow. We're going to take a little break. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. We're with Stephen Binns, author of a fascinating book, Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland. We're continuing our conversation of Joseph and Victoria Ulma and their 7 children. They were beatified Sunday, September 10th, in their village of Markova. It's a fascinating story of faith, of the evil in the world, but faith, and how faith and hope and joy can overcome that evil. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship programs provide a free opportunity for young adults to spend time with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youth aged 9 through 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports every relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that can help young adults build confidence and enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7970 in Cook County and 847-782-4224 in Lake County. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today.
I can't imagine myself going into any other school.
Our school fosters growth by being a backbone to our family.
My kids are incredibly well-rounded. I see a lot of kindness in them on a daily basis.
One of the things I think Catholic schools do well is personalize the learning experience. You can hear joy in the classrooms.
I feel that I'm happy that I am in this kind of school.
Our school communities provide students with academic excellence and character education in a supportive and stable learning environment. Come see for yourself. Visit archchicago.org/findaschool.
Community is core to Catholic Charities' founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
We're back, WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Stephen Binns, who wrote Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland, underscoring the Ulma family who gave their lives rescuing fleeing Jews in Nazi-occupied Poland. Joseph, and Victoria, their 7 children, including 1 unborn, were killed, sacrificed their lives for the Jews that they harbored in their home. Father Greg, you have a question?
Yeah, Stephen, if someone wants to get a copy of your book, how can they do so?
Wherever good books are sold, your Catholic bookstore can order it for you. You can also obtain it from the publisher, which is Marian Press in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and also on Amazon and other online dealers as well.
Again, it would be Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland by Stephen Binns. One question, Stephen, that is, when you said that the Ulma family was discovered in hiding Jewish people, that do you know how long they were harboring the Jewish families before the Nazis discovered it?
I believe it was about 2 years. Yeah, 1942 to 1944, I believe they were killed.
It was very interesting is that to harbor Jewish individuals or families, you were literally risking your lives, and you knew it. And the Ulma family, against all odds, was taking that giant risk. And then according to your book, that when the family was discovered in harboring the Jewish people, that the Nazis in killing the family was a very public thing. They wanted to terrify the entire town. This will also happen to you if you hide Jews in your home.
Right, oh yeah.
So the very thought that every day for 2 years praying they wouldn't be discovered, and they were discovered. And it's just fascinating. And the question you always raised, that meditation, how would we have responded if we had lived at that time? Would we have thought of harboring Jews at the risk of our own family, or would we have said to a family, I'm sorry, we can't do it? So those are very interesting questions. Mark?
It must have had a tremendously deep faith to be able to trust in the Lord in that work. Now, Stephen, as you were doing this book, you discovered this story, or you knew the story prior to doing the book?
I had just heard about it prior to the book and prior to going to Poland for most recently to work on the photography for the book.
So it's powerful. It's powerful. How has it changed you?
Oh, gee. It's the Jewish history and the Jewish culture in Poland is just so strong. And while I'm not a Jew, St. John Paul II called the Jews our elder brothers and sisters. And as a biblical scholar, I know Judaism well, and I'm just inspired by the fact that Judaism is the foundation of our faith, and Judaism thrived in Poland during for many centuries until the Second World War, until Nazism tried to exterminate it.
Mm-hmm.
The Jewish culture in Poland, there are lots of remnants, lots of synagogues and places of Jewish culture throughout Poland, and they're trying to revive a lot of that in recent days. They have a Jewish festival. There's a history of Judaism in Poland, in Warsaw, and all of that is just very, very inspiring. And the fact that Christians tried to save all of that, to protect the Jewish people, I just think that's a remarkable thing.
Along those very same lines, Stephen, that is, in writing the book, you talked about how it touched your life. What do you hope that someone reading your book at the conclusion, what do you hope that they would walk away with in completing your book?
A greater appreciation of the saints and devotion to the saints, because the book is divided into the saints of Poland, basically. It begins with Saint Faustina, Saint Maximilian Kolbe, Saint John Paul II, all the Marian sites of Poland, who is Queen of Poland, particularly Our Lady of Czestochowa, Saint Edith Stein, Blessed Jerzy Popoluszko, who was the chaplain of the Solidarity movement. So I hope that people want to learn about these saints and also establish a devotion to these saints, to see these saints as models and mentors for their own faith, because they're just so inspiring. And of course, eventually, I would hope people would want to go to Poland to see these sites for themselves. And I go about every 2 years. I bring a group, and I'm going to bring a group in June of 2024.
Now, Stephen, are there any? It just sounds like it would lend itself, the book, to a series, that you could put on YouTube, or have you thought about that? A video presentation of the book?
I haven't really, but I think it's a great idea. It's easily divided into chapters, which would be a nice video presentation. And these are all heroic saints that people have grown to love in our own day.
And you probably would have a tremendous audience here, because I think Chicago Polish population is second only to Warsaw.
That would be correct.
And I could just imagine a lot of folks wanting to know more, younger people looking at the video and learning more about the Polish saints, because they have Polish schools here, and Catholic, and it would be an interesting curriculum.
It's very interesting, Mark, as Stephen is talking. My mother, God rest her soul, Mom died 3 years ago. Stephen, my mother would have loved your book. She loved saints, and especially she was rooted in Polish Catholicism, and the way you speak about it, all the saints from the 20th century that have come from the war and that whole era. And it's interesting, in reading your book, I get the impression you can make almost a personal pilgrimage, chapter by chapter, and just reading your book on a very prayerful level. Would I be right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, what I call armchair pilgrims.
Yes, I like that. I like it.
People who
I like
just
it.
take the book and read through it and imagine they're in the places. It's full of 200 plus of my photographs of all these places. So you can easily imagine that you're right there. But not just gaining information, but praying in that experience.
Now, how long did
It's interesting that that in the museum there's a model of the Ulma home, and there's a family Bible there, and the Ulma family had underlined the gospel passage that asks, "Who is my neighbor?"
Oh, wow.
And of course, Jesus goes on to answer that question with the parable of the Good Samaritan. And
Wow.
it's that kind of spirituality that the Ulmas wanted to instill within their children, and which is so inspiring, And that was, of course, the gospel used for their Beatification Mass as well. The gospel of the Good Samaritan, because they live that out in a very concrete way.
Stephen, how can people find out about the pilgrimages that you're involved in? I mean, they sound, first of all, you are so articulate, but you're fascinating in terms of your background. How can people, if they want to connect with the pilgrimages that you're doing, how do they do that?
Yeah, I draw a national group of pilgrims for my pilgrimages. So, people from all over the country, usually in groups of a few couples or individuals coming on their own, will gather from a particular parish or diocese, and you simply sign up on. Go to my website, which is bridge-b.com.
One more time.
bridge-b.com. And at that website, you'll find several different places, one for my books, one for my speaking opportunities, and one for pilgrimage. And on the pilgrimage site, then are all the pilgrimages that I'm offering, and you'll see the one pilgrimage in the Way of the Saints of Poland.
And maybe one more time how someone can receive or buy a copy of your book, Stephen.
Yeah, just Amazon.com. The full title of the book is The Way of Mercy. The Way of Mercy, Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland. And it's available on Amazon, or if you want to go to the publisher, Marian Press, or ask your bookstore to order it.
Have you received any insight? Joseph, Victoria, the family have been beatified. I know it's probably a wrong question for you, but have you heard, are they on like the fast track toward canonization? They just sound like a family that naturally proclaim the gospel by their lives.
Yeah, I suppose that they will be on their way to canonization. I think there's one more miracle needed. I think the miracle of healing is dispensed with in the case of martyrdom, but I believe for canonization they will need one healing miracle. But their life has been totally researched as part of the beatification process, and generally these days, if there's a lot of interest and backing, then and the church's concern with Catholic-Jewish relations is a big part of this. Like I say, the Jews see this site as a pilgrimage place for themselves. There are more Polish people among the righteous among the nations, honored by Israel, and it can just be a wonderful opportunity for Jewish-Christian relations and understanding as well.
Beautiful.
We want to thank in a very special way Stephen Binns, the author of Pilgrimage in Catholic Poland. Stephen, you have been an outstanding guest. You're a man of deep faith, and so thank you very, very much for being a guest here today on Catholic Chicago. You are listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Also get us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowitz and Mark Teresi. Stay with us. We'll be back for the second half. And again, do not touch that dial.
Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program has been especially busy this year, assisting individuals and families who have fled dangerous situations in their homeland, including Afghanistan and the Ukraine. The Refugee Resettlement Team helps with everything they need to start to rebuild their lives in a new country, including housing, employment, clothing, food, English classes, and referrals for legal and immigration services. The refugees are tremendously grateful for the compassion and practical help they're receiving, and they're giving back and helping each other plan for a brighter, safer future. Volunteer opportunities are currently available for those who would like to be family mentors and tutors so children and adults can practice English. To learn more about these rewarding opportunities, call 312-655-7096. That's 312-655-7096.
I am a seminarian.
The church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Also get us on youtube.com/CatholicChicago, youtube.com/CatholicChicago. And we had a great first half hour with Stephen Binns, and now we have a great second half with Sister Katie Mitchell, is a Franciscan sister of perpetual adoration who has ministered in teaching, faith formation, spiritual direction, young adult ministry, vocation ministry, and parish ministry. In these ministries, she has worked closely with religious, clergy, and lay women and men from diverse backgrounds and cultures. And presently, Sister Katie is now part of the staff full-time at Holy Name Cathedral here in Chicago. Sister Katie, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Father Greg.
Oh, this is wonderful. In fact, for our listeners, I first met Sister Katie when I was assigned as the pastor of St. Mary's in Evanston, and back in 2010 in July. And Sister Katie was teaching second grade at Pope John the 23rd School, which was St. Mary's and St. Nicholas, two parishes with one school. But after a couple of years, Sister Katie was asked to go for further education, joined St. Mary's as part-time staff, and a year later, full-time staff. And here today, as of about August 1 of 2023, join the staff at Holy Name Cathedral full-time, and you are a blessing to the community of the cathedral, and always smiling, and a team player, and just a gracious person. And
I had a question.
Sure.
So you worked with Father Greg at St. Mary's.
Yes, I did.
And now you're at Holy Name. You still said yes to him.
I did
for a second
indeed.
time.
Yes, imagine that.
Why is that?
Further punishment.
He's a wonderful priest, very generous and giving, and just a model of priesthood.
Well, thank you very much, Katie. Does that answer your question, Mark?
There you go.
Sure it does. Let's move on.
And Mark is gracious
I can say
too.
more if you want. Yeah.
No, that's quite all right. And now, you are so involved. You have just stepped in. Yesterday we had our ministry fair, and people really had a chance to meet you because you're brand new on the staff. And we had a wonderful liturgy yesterday at 5:15 p.m. with Bishop Bob Lombardo, who was vicar in Vicariate 3. The immigration mass, which was cathedral, was packed. And what impressed me, Katie, was the wonderful garb of all the different people from parts of the world. So say more about the immigration mass yesterday, and why would that mass even have been held?
Well, it was a beautiful mass indeed. Yesterday with Bishop Lombardo, he has such a human touch to him, I think is beautiful. And just seeing, you're right, seeing all the people in their traditional dress was just a wonderful for the mass. And yesterday was the World Day of Prayer for Migrants and Refugees from the Vatican has declared that, and it's happened for many years. And it was also the National Migration Week. The United States Catholic Conference of Bishops had a whole week. And the idea of this is to really to be able to encounter more the stories of migrants, refugees, asylum seekers who often leave their countries because of fear or poverty or desperation. And so this is a time when we pray for them, when we advocate for them, and when our hearts are moved by their stories. And yesterday I was particularly impressed by this family from Haiti that went up. They weren't able to share their story, but someone shared what they had
On
told
their behalf.
them. On their behalf, that's correct. And they had crossed the Darien Gap, which is between Colombia and Panama, and then had gone down to Costa Rica, Guatemala, and Mexico, all the way to the southern border.
They traveled hundreds of miles.
Yes, with two small children.
In which they say that more than half the people who make that trip die. More than half die along the way. In fact, what also that gentleman was talking about, like a 60-mile stretch of dense,
jungle.
thick jungle,
Yes.
no road. You're
Yes.
trying to go through this thick jungle in which more than half the people in that stretch alone don't survive.
And I had talked to a family from Venezuela who just recently came here, and the father's missing a leg. They have 4 children and the mother, and they crossed through there too with a group. And
Did
he
they
actually,
cross that same area?
the Darien Gap,
Wow.
and he saved the life of a 5-year-old, the father without a leg in the jungle. And they showed me pictures, and they were so eager to share their story, and just beautiful
And see, I think
people.
an important thing for Mark and for Sister Katie, we sometimes forget that these individuals coming hundreds of miles did not leave their home from a good situation. They were leaving for fear of their lives
Right.
because in
Yes.
those areas, it's all drug-centered, gang-run, and unless you give groups a certain amount of money for payback, whatever it would be, your family was threatened or many times killed. Therefore, they are fleeing for their lives where they consider a better opportunity and risking their lives, and more than half don't make it.
Can I ask?
Yes.
You have a missionary heart.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Where did where did that come from? And maybe a little bit about your faith journey. I mean, how did you become a religious?
Oh, 2 stories that could take up a
Sure.
whole day here, actually. But, I think, speaking to the first question you asked about a missionary heart, which thank you very much, but I just believe that encounters with people are what have changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've gone down to the border to work with migrants and refugees. I've been in Peru. I've worked with people here in the city. And the thing that changes hearts is really just meeting them and hearing their stories. And they offer so much to us as well. You know, sometimes we think we're doing things, you know, ministering to them. We're giving them clothing, we're helping them find housing, but they're giving so much more to us. And like Bishop Lombardo said yesterday, these are our sisters, these are our brothers. If this were your sister or your brother suffering this, what would you do for them? And so I, you know, you asked about my
where did that
vocation.
begin?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a long story. You know what? I'm one of those sisters who felt called to religious life when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And
how so?
Well, one day, you know, I've always had a heart that's wanted to give everything to God and to serve people. But one day when I was 12 years old, I would usually be out climbing trees and doing all these wonderful things outside, riding my bike. But I went in and I turned on the TV. And when I was a little girl, this movie was already old. So I don't know how many of our listeners and viewers have heard of the Song of Bernadette.
Oh, sure.
I love that movie.
It changed my life. I ran out after that, and I got the book, and that's how my journey started. And I never looked back. And so, yeah.
Now,
and
that's interesting.
Yeah.
You saw the movie.
Yes.
Movie ends. You go out and buy the book.
Well, I went to the library and checked it out in those days, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then change your life.
It changed my
Did
life
you remember
forever.
the line, the creek is not for me.
Yeah.
The healing waters were not for her.
Not for me, yes. And how many lives that movie has changed. And
Absolutely.
and look here what we're doing on Catholic Chicago. You know, you never know what a word or an image, anything that can change a life.
Well, it goes back to, we talk about, you know, instead of going outside and climbing trees or playing with your friends, you came in, watched the movie, and someone say, oh, what a coincidence. Again, I've said this many times, a coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous.
It was not a coincidence.
Exactly.
No.
It's a hand of God weaving and threading through our lives. Now, the non-believer will say, oh, what a coincidence, you watched the movie. No, believer says God's way of remaining anonymous because the Lord, through faith, touches our lives. And sometimes we only see the effects years later as we look back on our lives. On that note, Mark, take us to break.
Sure. WNDZ, 7:50 a.m. Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. You can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. When we come back, maybe a question I'd have, Sister Katie, is you're a member of the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. Maybe a little bit about how you were attracted to that order and what is that order about. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Did you know that Catholic Charities accepts car donations? If you're ready to free up space in your garage and put a stop to all those expenses that go along with owning a car, we will gratefully accept your donation, whether the car is running or not. You choose a pickup time that is convenient for you, and we will make the donation as easy as possible, free of charge. You'll receive a charitable donation receipt as well. We accept all types of vehicles nationwide, and you will know that your donation is made to Catholic Charities, an agency you can trust. To learn more about donating your car, call 877-786-4483. That's 877-786-4483. Thank you.
People always say, how can you spend your day with 3-year-olds? Seeing the changes that they go through and just the journey and how they grow, this is a very rewarding job. even though at the end of the day we're not the highest paid people on earth. And when I have a parent contact me and say, my child loves school, that to me, I'm setting that foundation for their love of learning, because really you are changing lives, you are molding lives.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
Do you have an old bicycle that's not being used? Consider donating it to Catholic Charities Veterans Bike Project of Lake County. Skilled volunteers are refurbishing bicycles to make them safe and ready to be used by veterans to get to and from their new places of work. We also gratefully accept financial contributions that are used to purchase bike helmets and other safety accessories. Our veterans have faithfully served the United States, and now it is our privilege to serve them. For more information on the Veterans Bike Project of Lake County, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
We're back. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. And you go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago with Father Greg Sackwitz, Mark Tracy here with our colleague, Sister Katie Mitchell, Franciscan Sister of Perpetual Adoration, who is new on the staff at Holy Name, not new to these areas, but the Director of Formation and Accompaniment, which is a fascinating title that aligns with Pope Francis's idea of who we should be about as a faith community. I asked before the break, maybe just a little bit about your journey to the Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration. How did you get there? Who are they?
The Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration we have our mother house in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and what attracted me really was the Franciscan spirit of poverty and joy and serving people where their needs are, and also the adoration. We have perpetual adoration, but also we seek to be Eucharist for others, to be broken open and serving others. And one of the main things that attracted me was Sister Thea Bowman.
Oh, sure.
And so
She
many
was
know
your
of
order?
her. Yes, she is.
Oh.
Yes, she is. Sister Thea Bowman, just a wonderful sister, full of life, and just very charismatic. And
She had the bishops singing, "We
yes,
shall
she
overcome."
did. Yes, she
Yes.
did. Most
At the
of
bishops'
them. Most of them.
yeah.
There were a few that I could. Yeah, but just a
How many
wonderful
years?
sister.
How many years ago was that?
Oh,
In the 90s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
back
it
in
was
the
the
90s, back in the
yeah,
90s.
she died
'Cause
in the
she's
early
pa-
90s.
yeah, I was
yes.
gonna
But now,
she
if you
passed.
joined that community, weren't you born and raised in Seattle?
No, I was born in Longview, Washington State.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, in Washington.
Yeah, and then I spent a long time on the East Coast as well, in Boston. so-
Okay, but you were born in Washington State.
Yes.
So
I
how did
was.
you find them as an order?
Well, in those days, there were a lot of little advertisements, like in the Catholic magazines and newspapers.
Right.
So, yeah.
In that area. Now, if we segue from your community, I know you have a great affinity for Mother
Oh, yes.
Cabrini.
Yes.
Say more about Mother Cabrini.
Well, Mother Cabrini was the first canonized U.S. citizen, and the reason why I have such a love for her is because she's the patroness of immigrants. And she spent a long time here in Chicago serving the Italian immigrants and opening hospitals and schools and orphanages. And she used to come by Holy Name to pray. And so now we have this beautiful statue outside. I stop every day to say a prayer, for immigrants. And even like this past week, I walked by a couple times. People were out there on the prayer bench, praying to her. And just to have her, that statue in the heart of the city that she loves so much, I think is beautiful.
But now
for
with
our
her
cathedral.
story, I think she went to see the Pope, and she had asked to go to a certain
Yes, to
area.
the east.
China.
Yeah,
to China.
Yeah, China, yes.
And the Pope said, "I want you to go to America."
Yes.
And so she
yeah.
settled in
New
New York.
York, yes.
But how did she end up going from New York to Chicago?
just opening, different,
Interesting.
schools and orphanages, and and there were a lot of immigrants at the time, so in
She even was
Chicago.
in Seattle, wasn't she? And New Orleans.
New Orleans, I knew about.
Yeah,
Seattle, I didn't. Okay,
Yeah, they claim
so,
her too.
yes.
Seattle does? I know New Orleans does.
Yeah.
And then she died, I think, in 1917?
Yes, and then she used to come by Holy Name Cathedral. and
Exactly.
pray. And so I, sometimes when I walk in there, I think about that.
But then you talk about the beautiful statue in our courtyard. Thank you is a gift from Carol Christensen. It was her
yes.
idea, along with a few others with Florence and, of course, Mark Teresi. You were incredibly involved with that.
Well,
and then it's... But
she
then,
ministered to our family through the hospital. My dad died at Columbus Hospital.
did he die at Columbus Hospital?
And I served Mass there for years when I was in grammar school.
At Columbus Hospital in the chapel?
Yeah, St. Clement's would provide the servers. And, so I feel very connected to the
Affinity.
place.
Yeah. Now,
And can I just mention,
Sure.
too, while we're on that subject, about the shrine on Lakeview, and I think it's Roslyn Place, the Mother Cabrini Shrine is something to go and visit. It's a beautiful, beautiful shrine.
It is gorgeous, a beautiful, beautiful area. And the thing is, now, in all the stories you've heard about Mother Cabrini, and she was a very strong-willed woman, didn't back down to anybody. But is there any story that particularly touches your heart about her life, Katie? I know there's so many.
I think just her courage, and she had a lot of opposition, and she was a very strong woman who stood up for what she knew God was asking her to do. And she had a number of men who really challenged her in this, in the church as well. And so just to be able to do what she did and to have that courage and that conviction, I think that's what speaks to me.
In fact, also, I think she actually did not like boats and ships and water.
Oh, no.
And
Oh,
she
no, she
made
was
like
terrified.
17 trips back and
Yes.
forth between Europe
Yes.
and the United States.
And
17 times. And folks, we're not talking an airplane.
Oh,
we're
no,
not
no, no.
talking
Oh,
2 days
my.
by water. We're
No,
talking
yeah.
several weeks to cross the Atlantic Ocean. And it was tough going.
And she was never well from
Yeah, she was
birth. She
For
was-
health.
And one other thing I just want to mention for our listeners is watch for the Cabrini movie.
Yes.
It's stunning.
Yes.
We've seen, a group of us have seen it, and my favorite line is when she's up against the mayor of New York trying to get the housing for.
Yeah.
He said, "The only thing I'm glad about is you're not running against me." For
Oh.
me."
I
That's
can't
right.
wait to see the movie.
That's a
yeah.
great line. Now, we segue from Mother Cabrini. We've talked about the immigration mass yesterday, and immigrants in our city is a completely different topic. But this time of year, October 4th, we have St. Francis of Assisi.
Yes.
And many, many parishes have a pet blessing and mass. And ours will be this Saturday, which is September 30th, 10 a.m., in the courtyard, providing good weather, and people are invited to bring their pets. In fact, I've been involved with pet blessings and masses in the past. I've had turtles, I've had hamsters, I've had a tarantula, and I've had rabbits, I've had dogs, I've had cats, had a canary. Thank God it was in a cage, and it's just amazing. So now, say more about, because I know you, Katie, love animals.
I do indeed. Yes, I'm a Franciscan, so yeah, so I love animals, and I think this is really a special time for so many people because they can bring their own pets.
And they do.
And they do, and there's nothing like the love that you have for your animals. They become very dear to your heart, and I think there's a reflection of God's love in that. How much God loves us. We love our pets. We love our animals. And there's so many lessons you can learn. You know that, Mark. Both of you are
we've
animal
talked
lovers.
about it, yeah.
Yes.
Sure, I raised
like
canaries.
just the abandonment they have to you and the trust they have in you. And as a Franciscan, too, I know we do this because of the tradition of St. Francis and his love for all of creation. Like, he used to preach to the birds, and they would sing and listen to him. And he, I don't know how many people know this, but he began the tradition, really, of the nativity scene, the creche, because he's reenacted what he believed, it would have looked like on Christmas. Had an ox there, he had a donkey there, and the friars and the townspeople were there reenacting that Christmas Eve, and so people began, having the creche and the nativity scene there.
Here's an interesting insight. I was talking to somebody in the last month. Many times downtown, people are walking to and fro to work, to the store, to a movie, whatever it is. And unfortunately, people downtown do not, as you pass by, say hello. They just walk right by you like you're not there. So sometimes I'll say hello to somebody. It's like I wasn't there. But I find fascinating when someone is walking with a dog. And we walk by and say, what a cute little dog. And if you have two people that are walking in opposite directions toward each other with dogs, they always stop and talk. Isn't it fascinating?
Yes.
You can be walking downtown just by yourself and somebody else coming toward you by themselves. You walk by like they don't even exist. But if they have a dog on a leash, what a cute little dog. What's the doggy's name? And if you have two dogs that meet, they stop and start playing or fighting, and the owners start talking. So it's interesting with an animal or two, all of a sudden a great conversation, and you recognize the other person and their animal, but not to have an animal on a leash and just two people walking by, it's like invisible. I find that fascinating.
It makes people smile, too.
Exactly.
They'll look at the animal and smile, so there's a special connection there. So.
And also I've seen many, many times downtown, I think, what a beautiful child in that crib, or not that crib, but in that carriage. It's not a child, it's a dog.
I know.
And first time I thought to myself, wow, I never saw that before, but that's more.
You're ready to say what a cute little kid and it's a dog. I had a quick question. It's probably for our next show. But so you said yes. You mentioned before about Jesus calling us to say yes. So you said yes to the director of formation and accompaniment here at Holy Name Cathedral. There's no job. Well, there is a job description. It's not like we didn't think about this. But how do you envision that it's a prominent place in the Archdiocese for us to communicate the gospel message? How do you see it?
Accompaniment, it's walking with people, I believe. And I think that one of my desires, too, is at Holy Name Cathedral that we can also walk spiritually with immigrants, with migrants. We have like 1,600 of them in one hotel close to us. And we see them around the city, walking around. These are brothers and sisters. I also see accompaniment in retreats, that we're planning retreats, and accompany people in bereavement and many of these ministries. It covers almost everything.
Which means it might be a topic for another program. We have to bring this program to a close. I want to thank in a very special way Sister Katie Mitchell, a Franciscan sister of the Perpetual Adoration, full-time staff at Holy Name Cathedral, and you are delighted to be part of our staff. You're adding so much, Katie.
It's a blessing.
So thank you for joining us today.
With you.
Special thanks to co-host and also staff of the Cathedral, Mark Teresi. Special thank you to Clint Cottrell and Michael May, our producers and engineers. They went through a lot today to get today's program done. May God bless our listeners. May the Cubs do well against Atlanta and Milwaukee this week, and the playoffs begin next week. And the Bears, wow, there's always next century. God bless. Great week.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.